It's been a rough few years, but Lindsey Buckingham is back and going his own way with a new solo album. We'll talk about the trials, tribulations, his solo work, and of course, the new album. Stay with us. Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. I am Dean Legiro here with Eric Cooper, asking you to please follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook. We're at 3324 podcast. A lot of fun, live shows, daily, different kind of celebrations of birthdays and articles, all that great extra content that we can't go over by speaking it. And also on Twitter, we're at 3324p, right, Eric?
Yeah, it's a mouthful, isn't it, Dean?
It's a lot. I wouldn't want to read all the stuff that we post on social media. It would kind of be like, boring.
I think every time you do the house cleaning, as it were, it just gets harder and harder for you. Like you're out of breath that much sooner. You're like,
I'm trying to find different ways to beg for follow. We're still growing. We need to find new and exciting ways to get people to follow us. So
that's right.
Short of bribery, when we don't have the funds yet, I've been trying to squirrel away some money. Maybe if we need to pay some people to follow us, we may have to go that way.
Sure.
But hopefully not.
Well, we'll get a mechanical. Maybe we'll have a little robot or something come in and do.
Just click, click play. Just click play on Spotify. Just play through each one. People,
that's right.
Believe it or not, that's unfortunately, Eric, that's actually a thing.
I know it is.
Yeah, there's bots. There's bots to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we could just say for the record, we are bot free, right?
That's right.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.
Oh, natural, as it were. Yeah, we're completely
we
human.
We don't have any robotos. Dennis DeYoung human. Is not in the back with his mask on, pushing play on all these episodes.
Yeah. Too human. Two human
and two humans.
That's right.
So we're talking about Lindsey Buckingham.
Yes.
And as of the recording of this podcast, much as with our Lord Euron podcast, we are doing this less than a week after the album was coming out. So this podcast is from the point of view of a brand new release. The album came out this past Friday, which is September 17th. And this will be out less than a week later on Thursday. So this is brand new listen. Eric and I challenged ourselves. The album came out. We haven't talked about it whatsoever, actually.
No.
So I don't know how he feels about it. He doesn't know how I feel about it. And full disclosure before we get into it, too, we are both really big Lindsey Buckingham fans. But I feel I'm quite objective because there are things I don't like that he's done. So I'm certainly not a homer of, everything he does is magic and he's got the Midas touch. So I have had some issues and some not favorite things about some of his work. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, me as well. Especially, and he's pretty much all over the news lately. I mean, his stuff with Fleetwood Mac is still... Yep.
Still simmering and brewing, which we'll get to.
I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah. I think what we'll do is we'll talk about like the past. I think we'll go through the stats. We'll talk about where we come into this. And then I think we just need to really kind of talk about maybe the past 3 years of Lindsey Buckingham. And that'll kind of set the stage for the album, perhaps. So let's stop the small talk and we'll get into the big talk.
Let's do it.
So album, let's talk the stats, right? Album was released September 17th, 2021. Produced, this is going to sound like a broken record, but produced by Lindsey Buckingham. All instruments played by Lindsey Buckingham, drum programming, everything. All songs written by Lindsey Buckingham, except for one, which is the song Time.
Mm-hmm.
The odd thing about this, or, it may be not surprising given when we go over the circumstances, this album was recorded in 2018. But is only seeing the light of day now.
That's right. It took 3 years to get it out there, and
to get it
just
out there.
Getting pushed back. I mean, the
one
pandemic,
thing after another.
Yeah.
The strange 3 years of Lindsey Buckingham.
Exactly. Yeah.
So So let's let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that happened starting in 2018 with Lindsey Buckingham. We talked about the drama in our Fleetwood Mac Tusk episode as well. Yes. So we don't need to really belabor it, but the most recent, if we pick up really in 2018, Fleetwood Mac is readying for a tour, or at least they want to go out on tour, and doesn't happen, right? Stevie Nicks kind of is is actually, well, they were supposed to record a Fleetwood Mac album, I think in 2017.
Which resulted in the album that he made with Christine McVie.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
Exactly. So she was going out on tour. She's like, well, I can't participate. I'm going on a tour. So that was kind of like 2017 was kind of like the simmerings of potentially some issues because, why not just make it a Fleetwood Mac album then? If Stevie Nicks can't participate, it can still be a Fleetwood Mac album because God knows they've done enough without Christine McVie.
I totally agree. Say You Will was, at that point, Christine McVie was not in the band. She was retired, but she eventually came back. But still, why not?
And she gave it her blessing too, Christine McVie. She's like, yeah, go for it.
That's right.
Go do what you're going to do.
And it actually kind of annoys me because in this case, Lindsey followed up that record with this brand new record of new songs. And the thing of it is that he wanted to take 3 months to promote it, to get it out there. And they said no, which kind of pisses me off because it's like, if Stevie Nicks can get to do her thing, why can't Lindsey do his?
Good right? For the goose is good for the gander. The other thing that happened in 2018 too, right, is he's getting that album prepped. And he's, and that's the thing with Lindsey Buckingham, we're already going off on wild tangents. Okay, let me refocus. So 2018, Fleetwood Mac gets performs at the Music Cares Person of the Year ceremony in January of 2018.
Yeah.
Apparently, when they perform Rhiannon, apparently Lindsey Buckingham may or may not have been smirking behind her or something, and it just ticked off Stevie Nicks. That's one thread in this multiverse of rumor.
She made a speech. She was making some kind of an acceptance speech or whatever, and it went on a little too long, as it sometimes does. Apparently, that's in joke with the band, at least according to Lindsey, because this isn't the first time something like this occurred. And so, but in Lindsey's defense, he was claiming that the rest of the band were also joking around as well behind her while she was giving the speech. So
and he got singled out.
But he got singled out, and he gets a scathing phone call or letter like 3 days later from Irving Azoff and said, "You're out of the band." Yeah.
Now, supposedly that part of that, or a cover story, or what they said was the issue was there was a disagreement about the tour. About song selection, timing, this, that, and the other thing.
The official,
the official word. So there's a couple of different streams of rumors there. Not to
there you
rumors
go.
starting already.
I was waiting for it.
So he embarks. So he gets fired. They replace him, as they do. They can, you can't replace Lindsey Buckingham 1 for 1. He's a 2 for 1 replacement. So they got Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Neil Finn from Crowded House. Fleetwood Mac goes out on their tour, and they do make a boatload of money. That's the thing, that Fleetwood Mac is largely a touring concern now rather than a recording concern. So Lindsey Buckingham goes out on his solo tour in 2018. 2019, chest pains, open heart surgery, vocal cords damaged.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's when things really got scary. So in 2018, he gets booted from Fleetwood Mac. 2019, very serious open heart surgery is nothing to joke about. And vocal cord damage, and it kind of, shades of like the Val Kilmer thing. It's like, okay, well, to what extent, to what nature? Nobody knew. We didn't really hear much. He's recovering. He's kind of recovering. And then 2020 happens, and he was, I believe he had I think announced some dates that he was going to tour.
Yeah, he was all set.
Those ended up getting canceled with the pandemic, right? So fast forward to 2021, right?
Yeah, he did a few like at home kind of performances. I think
little pandemic
recently.
Things.
Yeah, and he sounded great. He recovered quite nicely, actually. His voice. You recall like a few years back, I think you had made the comment that it was one of those tours where they were, where Christine McVie came back, and I remember you saying like his voice was completely shot.
Yeah.
Then like he was like really like he had
sounded
really
awful.
So we were
off key and just just not
that
there.
concern. There was that concern with this new situation. And when he did those little in-home things, I was like, oh, he's back. He sounds great.
Yeah. And he did Never Going Back Again for Fender. He did a short thing demoing one of their new guitar, their acoustic electric guitar.
Yes.
So that made me feel a lot better as well. 2021, album. I've got an album coming out and I'm going back on tour. I did see him last Thursday, a week ago, and absolutely incredible. And I think his voice sounded better than when I saw him in 2018. And I was blown away in 2018. But he came out roaring. I mean, he was literally so full of energy, so happy to be out there and vibrant, and promoting his new album too, which a lot of groups will put out an album, but not really play a lot of songs from it because. And Dennis DeYoung is like that. He's like, I'm going to put an album out, but people want to hear the old stuff. And he doesn't really present the new stuff live. But Lindsey Buckingham did like 4 songs off the new album. So it was really good. So that kind of gets us up to 2021. So he releases this album. And I was a little nervous initially. And I don't know if you were, because we didn't know that it was recorded in 2018. So doing a couple of impromptu, YouTube songs is one thing, but putting out an album of material is like, well, what is that? That was kind of a little bit nervous for me.
That's right.
And then it's like, oh no, he's like, I did this in 2018. It's been sitting there. I'm like, okay, all right, well, there's that. There's that part of it, which is good, right?
Yeah.
But then we get into, let's kind of stop there.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's kind of rewind our personal tape decks and go back to where we connect with Lindsey Buckingham, and then we'll kind of get caught up to this album, and then we'll go there. So
let's do it.
It's funny. I was thinking about it today, and there's 1 year. It's probably the most important year in my life in music for a couple of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
1981, probably the most important year in music in my life. Was the formative. I've been able to pinpoint it because of 2 things.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
I'm guessing.
Are you going to guess? You look like you were like, Well,
I don't know if I don't know if you were putting it out there as a question.
Take a shot.
No. ELO's Time, right?
Time came out by ELO
and Law and Order.
And Law and Order, exactly.
Lindsey Buckingham.
Those 2 albums and those 2 artists kind of cemented really what my musical tastes and proclivities would be at that point. And both of them are 2 sides of the same coin. They are literally, they're contemporaries as far as what they do in the studio, producing stuff, playing all the instruments themselves. Although at that time, Jeff Lynne didn't really do that. But he was capable of, and he would eventually do that. They were both, studio hounds, creating just different sounds and textures and all that great stuff. And Law and Order, for such a quirky album, I really I latched onto it. And that was my entree into Fleetwood Mac, was actually through Law and Order, I believe. Everyone knew the stuff from Rumors and all those songs.
Of course. Yeah. And who doesn't have that album? Even now, it's still still in everybody's wheelhouse, but but that's where it started for me. But it was Fleetwood Mac. It was not. I wasn't singling out Lindsey Buckingham.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed with his achievements and what he did on the record. But I kind of always assumed that it was Fleetwood Mac was more a group effort. And you come to find out through the years that that's not really the case. It's like each one comes in individually with their songs written. And they just kind of sort of play on each other's songs. Of course, we didn't really know all the drama that was going on, when they made that album. Then, of course, with Tusk and that was it for me. Then, I remember when I met you, I remember hearing Trouble. I think you played Law and Order for me, and I remember not particularly liking it very. I was just kind of like, "What is this?" Like Buana, and it was quirky. He's like screaming and yelling like Johnny Stew, and and it's like. It was a little. It took a little getting used to it. I remember borrowing the cassette from you, and I think that's what did it. I gave it a few listens, and I kind of fell in love with it. I was like, this is cool. This is because I like weird stuff. So why wouldn't I like this?
I'd always said if you get what he's doing on Law and Order, you kind of understand Lindsey Buckingham, because I think and he kind of disavows it. And I was like, oh, it was kind of campy, whatever, but not for me. It was quirky, weird pop.
Yeah.
strange, different sounds. But I was into all that stuff in a pop rapper. So I was just like between that and Time from ELO, like those were the two. I'm like, it cemented my two favorite artists were Jeff Lynne and Lindsey Buckingham. I mean, in 1 year, like I had like the epiphany of all epiphanies of this is the path I went on and pretty much stayed on.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that distinctly.
Yeah.
And again, me too. I mean, I enjoy I bought Time on vinyl as well. And that was a very important album for me because, again, ELO, it was already established. They had, Out of the Blue but this was different. This was the 80s now, and they were doing something a little bit different. So we both got into Law and Order before Tusk. Is that correct? You heard?
I think so. I started going back
because I remember
Fleetwood Mac Live. I was listening to that a lot as well.
Yes,
the double cassette of Fleetwood Mac Live. So I was kind of 81 was my marking point. So it was like Law and Order, then started going backwards right into a lot of not so much Rumors, but it was mainly like Fleetwood Mac Live and Tusk.
Yeah,
were like the two big ones with Law and Order.
I remember that cassette.
The double cassette.
It was hard to put it in your pocket, right? Yeah. It was like you're weighing.
Because it was like a double. It wasn't
heavy.
It wasn't two single cassettes. It was a double cassette case.
That's right.
And it would open up on each side. So, so that kind of set it for me. Is these studio, these producers and what I didn't realize at the time is, Lindsey Buckingham very much influenced by Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys. And I would come full circle, much like with ELO and the Beatles, in getting into the Beatles and having my Beatles period. Right. And then in the 90s, I had my Beach Boys period where I was listening to like the Smile sessions and literally hearing where stuff from his second solo album, Go Insane, came from. I'm like, I understand this album now a lot more than I did when it came out. And I just liked it because it was so weird and no one really got it. And it was really quirky. But after getting into the Beach Boys, I understood it better. I was like, wow, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's safe to say that, this stuff could be, obviously could be labeled as pretentious and it's just,
but it's not for everyone.
It's just purposely so, and I don't have a problem with that. Honestly, I really don't.
It was experimental. That's the thing. There was new technology at the time, something called a Fairlight computer. Which allowed you to, record samples of things and then play them. And basically that album was him using the Fairlight computer almost exclusively for everything but guitars, pretty much. Yeah, it was just that's what it was. And at the time, it was a critical success. It didn't do anything. I mean, the song "Go Insane" is kind of from that, but
he's always been well received critically. Critics love Lindsey.
Just not popularly,
totally unappreciated. He can never. Honestly, and every time he would, I think he more or less saw his solo work as an outlet, his frustration of being so restrained in Fleetwood Mac and only having to do only so much. And of course, we talked about Tusk and how it didn't do well as commercially as Rumors that it didn't sell as well. The band kind of blamed him for that. So he decides to, Mick Fleetwood decides we need to be a little bit more.
We're not doing that again. He said,
exactly.
We're not
so
doing
Mirage,
that again.
82 Mirage comes out, but even on that album, right? I think we talked about this too. The quirkiness of his songs.
Oh, of course, he didn't stop. Oh yeah,
they still stand out.
Yeah, he just didn't go. Well, sometimes he did go overboard. I mean, there's a lot. Like Mirage has a lot of like Eyes of the World and Empire State. I mean, those are quirky songs. So he didn't stop. It's just he didn't do like recording on his own, and that was what kind of miffed him a little bit too. Is he'd go into do his own thing, and then come back with the songs. So it was more of a band effort. And then 92, Watershed album for Lindsey Buckingham.
Yeah,
this set the high watermark for Lindsey Buckingham, which was Out of the Cradle,
which is my favorite.
It is a masterpiece.
It's still my favorite album.
This is a masterpiece of one guy doing everything. The songs are beautiful. It sounds gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of everything. It's got the guitar stuff on it. It's got the quirky production, and it's got sensible pop right in the middle. I mean, he kind of hit everything, especially after Go Insane. You're like, well, what's his next solo album going to be out? And he comes out with this beautiful, beautiful album, Out of the Cradle.
Yeah. And it's a response to at that point, him leaving Fleetwood Mac. They had made Tango in the Night. And I was kind of like nervous about Out of the Cradle because this came after Tango, and I'm not a fan of that album.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Just I guess it's just the slick production. I think that gets me most about it. It's so sickly sweet that it's just But no, I prefer Out of the Cradle was like a step up for me.
Yeah.
Even the song, Doing What I Can, to me, it's another version of Big Love. It's that same kind of tempo and guitar, phrasing. And I think it's a better song. I think it's Big Love perfected. It's an amazing, oh my God, I blast that song all the time. Yeah, it's an incredible album. And just what he was able to do and achieve. And this is before Pro Tools, what he was able to, all the looping and, still using the
meticulous.
Fairlight and he's,
he knows how to layer stuff. He's great, just like a Jeff Lynne, at those textures and those little extra pieces that you don't know you need until they're there.
That's right.
And he's that's his, for me, that was what appealed to me about Lindsey Buckingham.
Yeah.
Was his, and I'm surprised he wasn't a more sought out or sought after producer.
Yeah, it's a shame.
He did some work in the 80s, did a little bit of work in the late 70s, did some smattering in the 80s, but not, I was like, why isn't this guy in demand?
Well,
the way Jeff Lynne became in the late 80s. All of a sudden, everyone on Jeff Lynne.
Do you think he would have done it though had he been?
I think so. He had nothing but time in the 90s.
Because given the how apparently difficult he is to work with, you hear from the band,
that could be it,
whatever. But I don't know. I mean, why didn't he seek out to be a producer? More? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe we don't know. Really know.
Yeah, maybe people just didn't approach him either. Just like
it's really a shame because he, I said it before. I'll say it again. Nobody no matter what Stevie Nicks does or nobody makes her sound as good as Lindsey Buckingham does. His production on her songs, there's magic there.
The little flourishes, those little extra touches that he adds.
That's right.
So Out of the Cradle was 92. Now we need to just talk about basically maybe one or one and a half Fleetwood Mac occurrences in between here because it's important. So in 1995, they get back together. Fleetwood Mac reunites for something called The Dance, which is a very popular MTV concert special. Reunited, they're back together, they're doing everything, and they debut a couple of new songs, and Lindsey Buckingham debuts 2 new songs, which of course were from, he was working on a solo album at the time called Gift of Screws, and this is in 1995. So he was working on that, and he kind of Bleed to Lover and My Little Demon are the 2 songs from The Dance that he did, new songs.
Yeah.
So those kind of get ponied up. 2002, Fleetwood Mac comes out with an album after, since with Lindsey Buckingham, since 87, since Tango in the Night, they come out with Say You Will. And a lot of the songs that were on that album were from what would have been Gift of Screws.
Right. So he came he was ready.
Warner Brothers had listened to Gift of Screws or whatever and said, no, you know what? Hold this stuff back. Save it for the Fleetwood Mac album. So a large portion of what Gift of Screws would be comes there. Now, the thing about The Dance is he did 2 songs. He did Go Insane and he did Big Love, and he did them solo and acoustically with the rolling arpeggios and the rolling chords. And all of a sudden, everybody took notice of Lindsey Buckingham as a guitar player.
That's
right. Those 2 performances kind of like that became all of a sudden who Lindsey Buckingham was. Like that's what he became known for, is just that insane acoustic guitar playing, not for the quirky production and the multi-instrumentation and all the great stuff, but he became known for that. So in 2006, an album comes out called Under the Skin. And this is where the cracks start to show for me, because this album is basically an album full of that, of him, just him and his guitar, rarely no production. And just him with the rolling chords and the rolling finger picking song after song. And I remember when it came out, I called Eric and I said, I hate this thing. I said, I cannot listen to it.
And I actually
spoke about it. I was mad. I was mad and I was upset. And I was like, I don't like this.
We did. I got my wife Kelly into Lindsey, but because she loves folky kind of stuff. And so this was right in her wheelhouse. So to me, it was kind of like, this was a new chapter for Lindsey. I love the fact that he found the guitar again and that he was doing this kind of stuff. But I think it was a little too much.
Yeah, I
Because
think it was a little bit of pandering to the audience that discovered
He-
him as that, so he became that.
right, he would continue that same guitar phrase. I mean, album like there were a couple albums after that that he still continued to do that, but slowly started coming back to the sort of pop stuff again and the
Yeah.
polished, production. But there's certain songs I like. There's certain songs I don't like.
Yeah, someone's got to change your mind.
I
going
love.
down,
I think
down on rodeo. There are a couple of highlights, but for
which
the most part,
we're supposed supposed to be on Gift of Screws.
Yeah.
And that those songs kind of spread out. It's almost like opening up a bag of chips and the chips go flying everywhere, and you're trying to pick up all the pieces, and it's like and they just kind of scattered to the winds. And these songs would just sort of splinter into these other albums, and they were written way back in the 90s. And
some of it was 90. Some of the songs were actually the actual recordings from 95 as well. So some of them did date back almost 10 years before from the Gift of Screws sessions that he just put into this album.
In my humble opinion, that album should have been his masterpiece. It would have. I love every single one of those songs that you hear.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think
I tried to listen to it again like yesterday. I couldn't. I just kept skipping. I'm like, I revisited. I went back and I listened to some of the the later solo albums. I'm like, let me kind of reevaluate those.
Oh, I'm not talking about the official release. I'm talking about what would have been.
Oh, what would have been? Oh, absolutely. We're going to get to that.
Album, which to me would have been his smile.
Absolutely. We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So in 2008. His 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, his fifth solo album, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Gift of Screws.
His sixth album comes out and it's called Gift of Screws.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, here we go. Like 10 years later, we're getting Gift of, like, this is it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't it. It was whatever the leftovers were that did not get used. The title track, which is really great. There's a lot of good songs on here.
Yeah.
Love Runs Deeper, right place to fade, which is actually called Right Twist of Fate, actually, and he sings Right Twist of Fate. But anyway, there's a lot of great songs on here. But knowing that this was kind of the original intent was ripped apart, and it's over. It's kind of like with the Who with Lifehouse, right?
Yeah.
This is kind of the same thing. Is that's
right?
The original intent got really chopped up and spread across 3 or 4 albums, and you have to kind of find it and figure it out and repiece it. If you go to the Wikipedia page for Gift of Screws, they actually give you the what's called the bootleg track listing of what the album would have been.
Yeah,
and it's absolutely amazing. That's
all you need.
You're right.
And that's all you need to do is go on Spotify and go to Say You Will, pick the songs off of there, pick the songs off of Gift of Screws and Under the Skin, and you can make your own, cobble together your own version of what the album would have been,
and it would have been incredible.
Absolutely, and
it would have outdone Out of the Cradle.
I just don't know why he would want to make not one but. Well, relatively 3. I'm going to say 3 albums of just this erratic kind of cobbled together kind of thing. Because the albums are not cohesive. They're like you're going from one thing to another. It's very esoteric, very very just sort of one song is one thing, the other song is completely different. It's not. It didn't quite fit, and that's the reason I think why I understand why you don't like the album Give the Screws, the official.
I like it. It's good.
There's some good songs on there, but they don't. You could tell they don't go together.
Because some are really old. I mean, they were again 10 years old.
Right. Yeah.
And then to get him caught up in 2011, he releases another solo album called Seeds We Sow, which was okay. I liked Gift of Screws better than Seeds We Sow, but there's a lot of high points on these albums, but. Mm-hmm. Coming, knowing what I know or coming from the other albums, I expect every song to be a high point because that's just usually the level that he works at for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of like, Rockaway Blind is great and One Take and Illumination. So there's a lot of In Our Own Time. There's a lot of great songs on there, but I was kind of like, like like Under the Skin was like, for me, was like a stutter step. So I kind of like I lost the plot a little bit after it. I'm like, well, I kind of wasn't, I was afraid of each album afterwards, if it would go back to that.
What he like I said, like I love those songs, like when he did Big Love and then he does something like, Shut Us Down. And then he goes from that, then he does then there's songs like Red Rover, which would have been on Give the Screws, which I love. And then he does stuff like, Bel Air Rain off of the official Give the Screws album. And I'm trying to decide which song. I mean, they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
And which one do I like best? and then, but I have to say, I think probably out of all of those type of songs, the one song that I absolutely love is Stars Are Crazy from Seeds We Sow. I really, really like that one a lot. And then the way it just kind of, the guitar just keeps going and at the very end, and it kind of fades out into this beautiful, all of those songs. Like, I think once again, he's like almost testing them out, testing the waters, and then each one just gets better and better. And finally he comes out with Stars Are Crazy. And hopefully that's like the
the last version
the last version of that, of Big Love,
of that thought,
of that type of phrasing, going
so,
on.
All right. Well, we've spent a half hour getting everybody up to speed on our feelings about Lindsey Buckingham and his solo career, because there's not a lot you ever hear about his solo career, because it really, critically loved, but doesn't really sell a lot of albums. Singles don't go anywhere. So that, it's kind of a strange thing where if the flip side of Stevie Nicks, where she was the big one, she had all the hits, she was releasing albums, everyone loved her, yada, yada, yada. So that brings us up to his new album, which is simply titled Lindsey Buckingham, self-titled solo album. So here we are.
First of all, I can't believe it's been 10 years
since his last solo album.
Since Seeds We Sow. Can you? I mean, God, it seems like yesterday. We're still, to me, that stuff is still fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
It's, it doesn't feel like a whole decade has come by.
It wouldn't have been, right? It would have only been 7 years had it come out when it was supposed to. So, so what is your verdict on Lindsey Buckingham?
I like it. It's surprisingly very sparse. It's surprisingly very, very pop, very at first, I don't want to say underwhelming, but that was my first reaction, was like,
really?
Okay. But then, I listened to it again and then again and then again. And the more I listen to it, the more I dig it. And it's surprisingly, like I said before, this is probably his first album that is a complete thought. It is very coherent. It sounds as if the songs were written all at the same time. It's talking about where he is now in his life, and it works as an album. It's very short, but the songs are tightly produced. They're very well. It's the tight production, but it's sparse production. It's not overdone. It's less erratic and esoteric. It's just, he's not really going off and talking about weird things and doing a lot of weird, crazy stuff as if like go insane. But I dig it. As an album, like I said, as a complete theme, talking about relationships and where he's at right now in his life, building his house and all this kind of stuff. I think, it's good. I mean, it's tight. It's a really great listen. I think it might be his most accessible album to listen to for newcomers to come in and check it out. Yeah, I think so.
Cool.
So what do you think?
Oh, I didn't know you were going to ask.
Did I steal your thunder there or what?
No, not at all. No. I love this effing album.
Mm-hmm.
I love this album. This is the successor to Out of the Cradle.
You think so?
This is the successor to Out of the Cradle. It has a lot of the same textures. It has a lot of the same production techniques, the higher pitched voices and the different voicings. This is the stuff that I love about Lindsey Buckingham, is all in this album. Like, this was a treat to listen to. Like, he released three singles first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you listen to him individually, and it's like, yeah, okay, we've heard this before. It could be this, and then there could be an album worth of other stuff.
Yeah.
I after listening to it, it got better. just like you said, it got better. The textures got deeper.
Mm-hmm.
The sound, him really experimenting with drum programming and beats. I mean, just really interesting stuff. I like it. I like what he's doing with this.
Yeah.
That he's kind of still using all the studio tricks, doing everything himself. And it's just got those thick self overdubbing harmonies that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like On the Wrong Side. Oh man, there's so many. I wrote down a lot of highlights, and I'm like, I have to stop because it'll pretty much be the whole album. I really love this thing.
I have 3 standout tracks, and that's one of them, On the Wrong Side. And surprisingly, I mean, another thing that I've noticed is that he's gotten a lot better with his lyrics. His songwriting has improved over the years. I think he was writing about like all kinds of weird stuff, but it was more about the production, I think, and music. Mm-hmm. And musically, he was trying different things. But here, it's a very strong album lyrically, I think, especially On the Wrong Side, because it's surprisingly dark. The lyrics
it's funny
really
you mentioned
dark.
On the Wrong Side too, and you talk about like sounding like other songs. That is actually really a riff off of Go Your Own Way. The strumming pattern is Go Your mm-hmm. Own Way, and pretty much the solo is very much Go Your Own Way. I read an interview with him too, and he's like, yeah, that's kind of like, I kind of took some of the feelings from Go Your Own Way and got it there. And then sometimes I'll hear some guitar sounds that sound like they're right from Out of the Cradle.
Yeah.
So yeah, that for me, it was like, I like the weird stuff. So Scream, which I don't mind. On the Wrong Side.
My favorite song is Swan Song.
The Swan Song, I have that on here too. Swan Song is just really great.
I listened to that song like 10 times today. Just that song. Nice. Because it was a head scratcher when I was like, what is he? Is this Trent Reznor? Was this 9 Inch Nails? Like this, this is unlike anything he's ever done.
Yeah. He's really going for it in this album.
Oh my God. The vitality, the energy of this song. Is this a 70-year-old man singing? Does not sound like it.
No.
I mean, if there's anything that like a young person today would, who didn't know Lindsey Buckingham, I would say, check this song out. This guy,
Blue Light. I love Blue Light.
And I noticed the blue in the background. I was
got the blue for that. And, Power Down is so quirky. I love the quirky stuff, and I'm glad to hear that kind of stuff. Power Down is probably the strangest he gets with the vocals, and I love it. Like, I was like, mm-hmm. This is what I want. He gave me what I want. I waited. I stood by him. Wasn't always on the same path with what he did recently, but he comes out with this album, and it's a highly, again, he's a certain taste. So if you kind of like Lindsey Buckingham and you get it, it's not Fleetwood Mac-y. It's not going to be that kind of stuff. I can tell you that much.
It's poppy. I mean, his voice, what's incredible is how he manages to get his voice so high. And I don't understand how he does it. Cause when you hear him sing live, he has to do it in a completely different key. Cause his voice is, so how he's able to achieve these really high pitched voices and still be able to do that. Even in, like, you think of Big Love back in the tango days. And, and everybody thought that was Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie, but no, that's all him.
Yeah.
That's all him with the ooh and the ahs and the
he knows what he's doing in the studio. That's the thing. That's the beautiful thing is he knows his way around the studio, much like Jeff Lynne. So it's kind of like, okay, let me think about what I want, and then I'm going to do it. And he doesn't really need to, he produced everything. He engineered it. I mean, this was him just doing it himself. He didn't need to consult with anybody. So he knows like what he needs to do and how to do it because of all the experimentation that he's done.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, this is my first time, I'm going to try and fool around with this. This has been his stock and trade for his solo work. It's just doing weird stuff and experimenting with different speeds of things and loops and vocals and bouncing vocals left and right and all this crazy stuff that he's been doing. I'm glad to see now that he has kind of honed it really into something that's really poppy and smart and just really listenable. God, I love this album.
I'm really glad.
I'm so happy.
I know, because when I heard it, I'm like, Dean's gonna love this. I know he's gonna love this album. This is not Under the Skin.
This is the anti Under the Skin. This is above the skin.
And it is a little, to me, it's a little less quirky than what he's done in the past. But I think
absolutely.
It's more refined. He's not doing it to, he doesn't really have to do that kind of stuff anymore.
That's why I draw the comparison between Out of the Cradle, because Out of the Cradle is the least quirky of his early solo work too. It was kind of like that more refined and but honing those ideas down, and then he kind of went a little weird again, like kind of.
But then even on that album though, he was still like with making these like weird voices, and like he would like change his accent, and like he's like supposed to be British. Like I think there's a couple of songs where he's like acting in just a weird kind of like vocal inflections and that kind of thing. But so on this album, it's pretty straightforward, and there's that double tracking of the voice with that. It's sort of that breathy but atmospheric effect to his voice, and it's most of the songs start out that way, but then there's always that one point where he, especially on the wrong side, where he yell. I love when he does that, when he's just that that one line that and he's just it's high above whatever else he's doing, and it stands out, and it just kind of gives you kind of chills, because he's still and if this was an album that you thought this came after his surgery, it was like, holy shit. Can you imagine?
I would have been like, wow. It would have been like doubly or triply impressed that it was. And I was, but either way, again, I saw him live last week, so he was able to replicate it. So he did not miss a step there as well. So that's the good news. But yeah, the production on this is just, it's gorgeous. It sounds on vinyl. It sounds crisp. It sounds open, which I really like. And sometimes when you have songs where it's electronic and there's beats, it can have that artificial feel to it. But he puts acoustic guitars over some of the songs too, and those little flourishes that he does. So it just brings like all these different elements to it into these songs. And there's only really one way to describe it, and that's Lindsey Buckingham.
Yeah, that's
what
I love
you followed his career.
Swan Song is that guitar, when that guitar kicks in, that little like and it's like, again, it's like it repeats. It's like a loop, with each verse. It's like it just keeps going, and I love that tightly wound production.
He knows how to do it. I've always loved his production work. He has always been, like I said, with Jeff Lynne. I think Buckingham, I like Lindsey Buckingham's production a little bit more, because it's, Jeff Lynne's is a little more like treble down. It always sounds a little more muffly. Mm-hmm. And this is just open. I really love just the way this album sounds when you put it on. It's just, it was gorgeous. It was such a delight just to put this on and listen to it and kind of have the satisfaction that you really look for in music. When you're looking for something and you're hoping it's going to be great, a lot of times you get disappointed because maybe you set your expectations high. I didn't know where my expectations were kind of low, because I wasn't sure. We weren't sure when this was recorded. Was this going to be like, really awful? So I'm even more excited that it exceeded what I wanted, and then matched up to, I think it comes very close to Out of the Cradle. I think it's up there with it.
Well, it could surpass it at some point, maybe. Because like I said,
don't go crazy. It's, Out of the Cradle.
But the fact that I didn't like immediately love it is that's what makes it better for him, because with each listen, it slowly built up, and I like that, because typically that's what happens. The best albums are like that. Yeah, there are a lot of times where Lindsey, right out the gate, I was like, oh, I love this, and then it just kind of wears off, and you just certainly that's the case with some of his later stuff. But I'm impressed with this record, and like I said, it's a very easy listen. It's a pleasurable listen. It's very accessible. It's not as, I'd like to see somebody like go back and listen to something like Law and Order after listening to this album, and just to see what they would think. You might hear some of the connections. I think it would be an easier transition to listen to this than Out of the Cradle. And just for the sake, so everyone's probably listening to, oh my God, what are these guys in love with him? Whatever. Yeah, I'm in love with Lindsey Buckingham. Sure, I'll put it out there. But I do have a nitpick about the album. So if we want to go there too, if we need to present something that like
when I was listening to it, I'm like, you know what? If he changed one thing about the album, it would really do it. And that's just actually in the track listing. The song Time opens, it's a slow song, and it's the only song he didn't write. And it's actually it's a folk song from the 60s.
Michael
from
Merchant,
like the mid 60s. Yeah.
is the songwriter. Yeah.
It opens the second side, and then the side closes with a song called Dancing. I think Time should have closed the album because it has that overall message, and it has like that album closing feel to it. So I would, if he had put Time at the end and maybe Dancing closing out side one, I think it would have kind of flowed a little bit better. Like that song Time feels like, okay, we're ending the journey. We're kind of winding it down. It has that feeling to it. It's a great song, great lyrics. And I'm like, yeah, this would have been for me better at the end. So there you go. Everything is not perfect in Lindsey Buckingham land for me. I do have some nitpicks and some things I would change.
Well, I
would change the album cover too, but
yeah, it is pretty plain for, but I was curious to see what you actually thought of Dancing, because I recall one of your biggest pet peeves about Under the Skin was that breathy vocal.
Yes, and when it's an album full,
but I'm like,
no, I like it. I like it. No, because it fits in what's going on.
Odd.
But when you get an album full of that, when you get an album full of the same thing, it's like, okay. But with this, you welcome those slower songs too, right? And it helps set the mood for the album. And that's the beauty of there's only really two slow songs. Is Time and Dancing are really the only two slow songs.
If I had one thing, I mean, it's not really a pet peeve or a problem. It's just, I wish he could have done a little bit more, something different with the vocals, because I think he probably did that double tracking thing a little too much on this record. Like he starts it off with that, like, like that, and then it builds up. But that might occur, I think, a little too much on this record, but it's not really that big of a deal considering what does come later in the song itself. So it solves the problem right out the gate. But I would have liked to hear him like sing more.
Yeah, he doesn't go full throated like he does in concert. It seems like now we just have to get used to on albums. He doesn't kind of go there. It is a different style of singing, but then when he sings it live, it is more throwing his voice out there.
That's what I like about Time, because it's his voice. There's no effect there.
Yeah,
just him. His voice is just naked, and it's
and that's what it needed.
I love it. Yeah,
it just needed that simple feeling to it. It kind of had a little bit of a Cool Water feel to it, which is the B-side of Hold Me from back in Mirage. We're really going. We're going old school here. Yeah, it has like that kind of cowboy feel.
It's like that
folky,
rolling lick. Then
that kind of feel to it. So yeah, this for me, this was like, wow, a great return to form for Lindsey Buckingham. I hope it does well. I don't know what it's going to do, but the music business is so weird now anyway, as far as sales and how people listen to things and what.
Well, it's been getting some really good reviews. I don't like diving into reviews too much, especially when I haven't heard the album myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't read too many, but from what I could see, just, from the headlines or whatever, 4 stars, it's, Lindsey Buckingham's return to grace and that kind of thing. And it's like, that's good. That's good to see. I'm glad that at least the critics are still on his side.
So let's do this. Give me 2 songs that you're going to recommend for this way. We don't, we talked about a lot of songs from the album. So let's narrow it down for people that maybe just want to check this album out or dip a toe in and see. You give 2 and I'll give 2, and I'll give 2 different ones.
Well, On the Wrong Side. And Swan Song are my 2.
And Swan Song. And those are 2 great selections because they're very different songs.
Yeah.
So Swan Song and On the Wrong Side. I will go with, I'm going to go with Blue Light, because it's a very interesting song. And I'm going to go with Power Down, because that's the quirky thing. If you can get Power Down, then you can probably get any of the other stuff that he does, because that's got the high-pitched vocals, like those sped up kind of chirpy vocals, which I like when he does this stuff, though. That's what gets me, is like, I love produced work.
Yeah.
I love the meticulousness and the craftsmanship that goes into creating a song, not just writing it, but putting all those little bits into it that make it, kind of ear candy. And I like that kind of stuff. That's where I live.
It
Is
makes me
in ear
happy.
candy land.
I'm so happy to see that you're really happy with this album. I was a little nervous. I was like,
You were?
is Dean going to like this? Is it? I don't know, but I wasn't sure. But that's not a bad thing. It's like, but
Yeah.
that's the thing about this is it's fresh enough.
That's because I've been so down on him, right? Just in all
You know?
fairness, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of like, I haven't been kind in the past few years, Tim. I'm like, so yeah, I'm nothing
he's
but
still
a fan.
He's still an egomaniac. He's still
absolutely.
somewhat of a prick.
Doesn't fit. Ego doesn't fit in the room.
No,
doesn't fit in the room.
But this is definitely a case of loving the art, probably a little bit more than the artist, because he gets us every time, and this does date back to when we were kids, and
that's the thing.
Very special. One of those very special people in our lives.
And you know what? You hit on it, I think, because you said you love the art more than the artist, and that's because the drama has become bigger than the music, unfortunately, at this point.
That's right.
Because Fleetwood Mac as a creative entity, not a touring concern, but as a creative entity, virtually doesn't exist. They have not recorded an album since 2001.
That's right. This is what's keeping them alive.
So in 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, all you ever hear, and we didn't even mention in the rough 3 years that Lindsey Buckingham has had, is that his wife filed for divorce earlier this year as well. So as if that wasn't enough, but they're kind of working it out.
Yeah, which is good to hear.
But that's all you ever hear is the fighting, and now more than ever, every day I'm reading, Stevie Nicks said this, Lindsey Buckingham said that, she replied to this, and that obscures this kind. A great album like this will get buried. By those articles and by that infighting, because that's become like the kind of the cliche. It's become cliche now. At first, it was intriguing in '77 with rumors and the story and how that and it carried through the '80s. But at this point, it's like it's time to let that it's getting in the way now of anything creative happening.
Oh, absolutely, and the media doesn't help either. I mean, they build
they eat it up.
They will write anything about anything, like just the stupidest articles about what somebody said, and just carries over, and it's so taken out of context half the time, and you just don't know what the truth is. But I feel like in this case, like I said, Fleetwood Mac, this is what they are. This is where we need to stay relevant. Let's continue this. Like it's almost like a reality show, for God's sake. I mean, we're oh, did you hear what she said? Oh, he's coming back with that remark, and it's like, come on, people, and it's like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's a shame. It really is.
And the interesting thing is, although Lindsey Buckingham got fired again with the drama mill earlier this year, Mick Fleetwood's like, yeah, I'd love to have him back. I want to close out Fleetwood Mac with Lindsey Buckingham. I've mended fences. Like now, Mick Fleetwood is back on the Lindsey Buckingham train.
Yeah.
What does this mean for Fleetwood Mac? We don't know. The random element or elements is whether or not Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham can ever find some common ground. And would you want them to at this point? Would it be, if they're doing it just for the money, then don't. If they're going to make an album, I want to hear it.
No, absolutely.
I want to hear an album from them. I don't want to see any more tours.
Well, here's the thing. Lindsey would want to do that. But the rest of the band, who's to say? I mean, I think they're at the point where they're content to just play their hits and
get the money. That's it's a money making.
And I'm sorry, but that's what that tour felt like.
Yeah.
And Lindsey even said it. He's like, yeah, now they're a glorified cover band. More or less, because they're just out there for the
unfortunately. I mean, that's the way it is for most of the older artists, like Dennis DeYoung. He put out 2 albums and said, I did this because the fans said they wanted it, but they don't want to hear me perform that. They want to hear Come Sail Away, and they want to hear Lady. They don't want to hear the new stuff. So, there's a little bit of reality in what Dennis DeYoung is saying, but if you don't try, and if you don't, keep pushing it out there and making those songs part of your canon or set list or whatever, they're going to be as well as you treat them, I guess.
You end up dying inside, I think. If you still got a lot to say, then by all means try to say it. Look at Clint Eastwood. He's still 91 years old and he's still making movies. He has no intention of stopping.
Yeah, and
You know?
I think Clint Eastwood might be replacing Mike Campbell in Fleetwood Mac.
Oh my God!
I think so. I think after his Cry Macho, he just finished filming that. I think he's got to go on tour in 2022 to replace Mike Campbell, because Mike Campbell has a new band, the Dirty Knobs. So they got Clint Eastwood. He's going to sit on a stool.
Can you imagine? Oh my goodness!
and you know what? It wouldn't surprise me.
No,
it wouldn't surprise me in the least, because Mick Fleetwood will never stop.
Right,
he will never stop touring until he's dead. So, yeah, this is the name of the album is self-titled. It's Lindsey Buckingham, but it's his first self-titled album, and it's his seventh solo album, and he's actually had more solo albums than he's had albums with Fleetwood Mac at this point, which is hard. That's a weird thing to say too.
And you remember back in the day when we thought it took so long for like something new to come out? We're waiting and
felt like forever, and it was only a couple of years.
And it was only a couple of years, and here we are. And like I said, a whole decade had just gone by, and this album, it's finally released, and wow, it's just it's crazy.
And 20 years since a Fleetwood Mac release too, so that's crazy.
Yeah,
that's absolutely crazy. So, yeah. So I think that's going to do it. I think we have more than made the case. Okay. So yeah, if you're going to throw some hate my way and say, wow, this was too unlistenable because of the amount of love for Lindsey Buckingham, well, then you know how we feel about it. And you know how passionately we feel about this album then. And it's refreshing to see artists making music and some of these classic artists not just hitting the road and trotting out the guitar and playing the songs, but
that's right,
making some new music and at least taking a crack at it. And not only taking a crack at it, but if you listen to this album, it is just so well done too. So this is not just, like I said, homers who just love everything he does. And you heard Eric, he said he was worried about my reaction because I've been hard on him. So this was for me a pleasant surprise, and that's maybe why I'm over gushing, is because I really like that he was able to kind of make this kind of comeback from the adversity of being fired, from the adversity of the heart surgery, from the adversity of the divorce, all this other stuff. To put out something like this is just really a testament to the music that he continues to create.
Mm-hmm. He's a wonderful artist. It's just, he is. I mean, he puts it out there. I think he's very much, he's got the talent to back it up. I think he's one of the most underrated guitar players. Nobody ever really talks about his guitar playing. You never see him in a top 100, like Rolling Stone guitar. Lindsey might be like,
he will be,
but
he will be.
But he's definitely my top 5 favorite guitar players of all time.
He would be number 1. I mean, we don't even have to do that. We don't even have to do a top 5 episode, because it would just be Lindsey Buckingham 1 through 5.
And his flourishing and his phrasing. You're right. You're absolutely right. He's just, but
no one plays like him. He's done amazing things on the guitar because of his folk style and bringing that to electric guitar. And that was what, again, before he was doing all these, the finger picking with the guitar, with the acoustic guitar and all that rolling stuff, he was using it for rock and roll music and soloing and bringing all those sensibilities to that in the live thing. And that's really what we got into.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't really doing that stuff. I mean, Never Going Back Again is really the closest you got back then to anything that he was doing now. He really did not go in the 80s. The finger picking was gone. He left that in the dust. Actually, with Tusk, he left it. Once he started experimenting with the new stuff, that kind of went by the wayside. So we know him as the quirky experimenter.
He's the mad cat.
The mad genius of Fleetwood Mac, behind the scenes production, doing, you get the standard Stevie Nicks and Christine McVie songs, and then you get the 5 weird Lindsey Buckingham songs that you don't know, like Family Man and You and I Part 2, and just all this great weird stuff that balances out the Fleetwood Mac albums from being just boring, just being like the boring Christine McVie or Stevie Nicks stuff.
Right, they're
the
very
Lindsey
upbeat.
Buckingham stuff really enhances it and makes it fun to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool. That's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Thanks for checking us out. You can find us on social media, as always, at 3324 podcast. That's Facebook and Twitter. Give us a follow on both. We would appreciate it. You can also subscribe to our our podcast. So this way you never miss an episode too. You'll get a notification. New big episodes every Thursday. We have 3324 Quick Hit, which are smaller, little less than 10-minute bites. Those come out every Monday. So thanks for checking us out. For Eric, this has been Dean, and we will see you on the flip side.